What will he do as your sheriff? That's what you could ask a candidate. What would he do as your sheriff? So James, what would you do as our sheriff?
Well, the first thing that I would do is, once I took office, is I would sit down and I'd assess everybody that I had already there. Some people say, you know, you elect me and I'm gonna clean house. Well, that's kind of a stupid statement. You do that, you're gonna go in there on the first day and be sitting there by yourself. What are you gonna do if you have 2 or 3 break-ins? I mean, that's just ignorant. I'm gonna sit down with each one of the officers, each one of the jailers, each one of the dispatchers, and I'm gonna assess each and every one of them. I'm gonna make them aware of some of the policies that I'm gonna enact as the sheriff. Number one, we're gonna have random drug screening. I'm not gonna have any of the taxpayers out there thinking that anybody involved in the department is doing drugs or anything of that nature. We're gonna sit down and discuss what my policies is as far as response to the demands of the public. You've got to keep uppermost in your mind, protect and serve. It's our job as the Sheriff's Department, including jailers and dispatchers, to protect our citizens and serve our citizens. Our citizens, they don't serve us. We serve them. As the sheriff, I'll sit down and work with the Board of Supervisors. I'll sit down and work with the different agencies as far as grants from the state, from the federal government, to ensure that we get good quality people that are well-trained and pay them a salary that they can get by on. I'm not going to set up here and tell anybody like some folks I've heard say, I'd fire everybody. That just doesn't make any sense. Those folks that are working down there, they're supporting families just like you and I are. Your jailers are supporting families just like you and I are. And that would be just really asinine and ignorant of anybody saying that. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question. And that leads me to another one. That was my 3 simple ones. Now let me get the ones that maybe not be so simple.
Okay.
Besides being the chief law enforcement officer of the county and responsible for the crime side of it, running the sheriff's office is business.
Absolutely.
Okay? From an administrative standpoint, how many employees? I guess you get into a relationship between the sheriff's, Tippah County Sheriff's Department and Board of Supervisors. I would guess that the Board of Supervisors are the ultimate approval or disapproval of your actions on an administrative standpoint. Am I correct in saying that?
You're correct in that, and so much as the Board of Supervisors is what generates the funding for the operation of your department.
So I guess they, in their yearly budget, I guess they budget you X, okay? And
Yes.
then you have to work in the guidelines of X,
Well,
right? Is
it
that how
doesn't-
it works?
it doesn't-
I used X as,
yeah, and
you know, you can
and
put
I
$1 million
understand.
in there. I'm not
Right.
trying to put a figure in.
It doesn't necessarily work that way.
Tell me how it works.
The
That's
sheriff works with the county auditors and that's Lindsay and Davis, and you know Charles Davis, real good folks. The sheriff sits down and he looks at what the budget was the previous year, and then he looks at what he wants to do during the next fiscal year, and then he looks at each one of his arenas as far as gas, vehicle maintenance, uniforms. What it's going to cost to operate the jail. You got a separate budget for your jail, one for your officers, one for your 911. And you've got to sit down and justify with the Board of Supervisors those expenditures about how you're going to do that. So that means when you start doing your budget, you're going to have already have had yourself together as far as your state grants, your federal grants, and then you've got to project based upon past experience how much money you're going to generate into the Sheriff's Department on seizures from drug enforcement or money that's seized during drug. And that's something that you can't really count on because it's kind of an unknown until you get out there and do it. I was very fortunate when I was sheriff to have a close relationship with the Board of Supervisors because they saw right from the front that, and I'm not bragging, but I was a good administrator as far as a steward of the funds of the county, of the taxpayers' money. I didn't waste any money. If I caught a patrol car sitting somewhere idling, somebody had to answer to me while we're sitting there burning gas for no reason. If I caught a deputy that I'm paying taxpayer money to be working a certain set of hours, I caught him hid out somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be. And once again, I was famous for doing that at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We had problems there. If the supervisors, and that's whether we got this group of supervisors or we have a new group of supervisors, they're men just like you and I are. They're there to protect the funds of the county, the taxpayers, and if they have a sheriff that knows what he's doing with his budget and how to set up a budget and work a budget, then I don't foresee a man having a whole lot of problem with the Board of Supervisors as far as your budget.
Okay. I have a question I'd like to get cleared in my mind, and of course, it's just something I'm thinking of. But the salary for the sheriff always comes up, he's making more, you know, whatever. Is it such that they give you, let's say, and I'm gonna use these figures hypothetically.
Sure.
They're gonna give you $200,000 for operations. Then you spend off of that, and that dictates how many deputies you have, how many personnel you get, and then you get your salary out of that, or is your salary separated from that? How does, am I making sense of what I'm asking?
You're making sense.
I think I'm talking about the old way of doing it.
You won't know where the sheriff's getting his money at.
Right, yeah.
I'm not even,
I don't know if that's a good question.
it is a good question. I'm not even sure what the sheriff's salary is now. I know it was $41,000 when I left office, so I'm not sure what it is now.
And you were in office from 2000
From
to
January
2003.
2000 till January 2003.
Well, it's probably higher now.
Well, it may be, but if you're running for it for the salary, you're doing it the wrong reason
Yeah.
anyway. But the way that works is the sheriff's salary is programmed into the budget. And once again, as an administrator, you've got to be not just the chief law enforcement officer, but you've got to be the chief administrator for the department. You've got to figure in, when you're doing your budget, you work close with the folks, with Charles Davis and the rest of them up there, about your salary, then based upon what was spent the last year, and you try to work from there and kind of give yourself an idea of how many deputies you can have, how many full-time, how many part-time. That brings up another subject that's kind of sore point with me that I want to bring out. During my tenure as the sheriff, I was the first sheriff we ever had that got us approved by the state to run a training academy here in Tippah County. And what that meant was I was able to train reserve officers, part-time officers, and get them certified by the state here in Tippah County without sending them anywhere. What that done was gave me more part-time officers, more volunteer officers to be out there on the road and to help with the enforcement as far as chasing down drug dealers and things that were going on with burglaries and thefts and things of that nature. So it enhanced the department.